Hey leaders, I hope you guys are having a great Tuesday. Hey, what I want to do in this video today is just give you a quick explanation of the discussion questions. Also, if you are one of the newer leaders, I'm not sure if you guys have gotten these videos before, but I try and send out a video relating to small groups or something that we're teaching about like once or twice a month, just to give you guys some further instruction, help clarify some things. So anytime you guys send me questions or ask about things, sometimes I make mental notes of those. And I've gotten this question a lot and realized that I never explained it. So when you look at the small group questions, especially for some of you newer leaders, you look at, it's like, hey, get to know your small group and, like have conversation with them, and here's discussion questions and do highs and lows. And then there's like all these questions, and then there's like Bible verses, and sometimes you might look at it and you're like, there's no way we're going to get through all of this. And that's kind of my goal. So if you don't know, I could do a better job explaining that, and I'm sorry if I haven't before. But like I've said, I want the primary part of group to be about connection. I want it to be about the students getting to share each other's lives, and you guys get to know each other a little bit better, so that that there's these lasting relationships, and hopefully students know that they have a spot where they can go for wisdom. And then, like I said, the questions will kind of lead into the message. And I think this one is specifically fun today because, we're going to be talking about the book of John, and it's connected to Old Testament. And it's just, to me, I think the book of John is one of the greatest pieces of literary artwork ever. I just think that it is beautifully designed, and obviously, it was like God inspired, and so I don't think that's any coincidence that it's so beautifully woven in there. So it is kind of fun to just see where students are even at with the Bible as we get to explain some of this. But there is, like, even this week, there is a lot of discussion questions. So here's my goal, is that when you guys read the discussion questions, that hopefully you get a chance to look them over at least a couple of minutes before group. I'm not asking you guys all to come like super prepped with questions answered, and some of you want to do that. I think that's amazing, and you kind of want to look them over and see that. But the point of group is first connection, and then when you're talking about these discussion questions, kind of prepping students for the message, hopefully you guys read through them beforehand and you kind of pick what's going to be best for your group. Some of your groups might be kind of already have a really good solid foundation, and even like some of these questions might be pretty simple to them, or they might have already the answers dialed. So for you might want to do a little bit more focusing on the scripture readings, or some of the like digging deeper into this discussion and actually hitting parts of this that I even might like address in the message. And some of you might be like, all right, my group is like for this week, like what's the point of the whole Bible? Some of you might be like, all right, my groups have that dialed, and some of you might be like, my students have no idea. And some of you might be like, I have no idea, and that's totally fine, And if some of these questions, as you're reading through them, you're like, man, I don't know answers to these, like, feel free to ask me, or Google, do some research. And there's nothing wrong with just telling your students, like, hey, full disclosure, like, I didn't know some of the answers to these questions, and I did some research on them, but I want to find this together and answer this together. So when it comes to the small group questions, it's really a tool for you guys to kind of, especially when it comes to the discussion questions, to find out what questions are best for your group, and to give you hopefully more questions than there are time, so that, let's say you go over a question that you think is going to take 10 minutes for your group to go over, and people aren't very talkative and it takes 2 minutes. Like, there is other stuff that you can continue to go over and talk about. So when you look at those small group questions and you think like, there's a lot here, don't stress. And if you don't get to the discussion questions certain weeks, totally fine. Like, there was a week last week where we just talked about learning to respect teachers, and it had nothing to do, it just kind of came up with what people were talking about in highs and lows, and had nothing to do with the discussion questions, but it led to really fruitful conversations. So also be willing to let conversation goes where it goes, and not feel like we have to get through the questions. I just wanted to give you guys that explanation. And then also let you know that throughout this entire series, because there is so much context to these I am statements Jesus makes, like there's so much research that, like, I mean, I honestly, I could share an hour's worth of content or more each week, and I'm not going to do that. I want to get quickly to application and understanding and helping them understand the character of God, first and foremost. But what I'm going to hopefully do over the next 6 weeks of this series is give you guys, and I'll send a separate one after this, but give you guys a kind of a quick video like this that gives you some context and even places to search and go, so that if you want to dive into some of this deeper context with your students and group, like if you have one of those groups that's kind of more interested in that stuff, that you can do that. So this week we were talking about I am the bread of life in John 6, the statement Jesus makes there and how it kind of connects to the Old Testament and the manna that God provides. So I will send a separate video and make you guys aware of that. And then also, you might have seen my email, and I'll say this in the text, but I'm going to start emailing out the questions, because even though I'm a Gen Z, I realize that email actually does serve some great purposes at times. So yeah, you'll be getting emails because it's easier to get the files to you guys in a way where you can view it